our full review of
Spoiler review.
spoiler review, but I mean, for God's sake, it's The Little Mermaid, and we all know exactly how that works.
Yes, but I
Don't
mean, there
we?
are some changes that maybe people haven't seen it, don't want to know about.
That's a fair point. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Full spoiler review of The Little Mermaid with Halle Bailey.
Yes.
What do we think about it? Because generally, I don't like the live action remakes, or
Yeah.
do I just
I
not like
went
the fact
back.
they exist?
I think generally it just had they really landed the execution, made additions and lengthening of the films feel relevant and not kind of pointless filler. Um, you know, using animation that felt very emotionless, a la the Lion King. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't really feel like they're necessary, but if they're going to be done, then do something to differentiate a little bit, make it stand apart. The additions to lengthen the runtime, make those moments matter, make them flesh out things that you didn't get to do in the animated version. That's why Cinderella up to this point was my favorite of the live action remakes, because we got all of the elements from the animated film, but we got to get more time with her and the prince together, actually talking and getting to know each other, them meeting previously, getting to know um her father, her life with her mother and father before their passing, more of the prince and his relationship with his father and that whole meaningful relationship between the two of them. So we
You
definitely
say up to this point. I'm intrigued by that
um
particular statement.
well, I mean, I think I'm tied with Cinderella and The Little Mermaid, which funnily enough,
Okay.
I wanted to do a little rewatch of some of the other princesses and live actions to kind of, gauge my feelings about them after maybe not seeing them for a while. And I think they're pretty even for me. And also really dumb. Cinderella is not on Disney Plus for some reason. Uh,
Really?
live actions, I had to rent it because it was
Oh, for
not on.
God's
It was
sake.
not, well, for whatever reason,
Doesn't even
live
make any
action
sense.
Cinderella was not on Disney Plus. So I don't know what's going on with that. But I watched that. I rewatched Aladdin, and I watched um I think that's maybe all I watched. Because yeah, I was not gonna watch Beauty and the Beast again because I can't stand Beauty and the Beast. But
We like the other two versions.
yes. So I think Cinderella was a good balance of really adding things to the story that we didn't see in the animated film, while also keeping the core elements of the animated film. However, I liked the animated version of Cinderella was a little bit more sassy, you know, than this
Yeah.
version who was just like wholly like la da da dee da 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 la dee dee dee. Like just very like a little too nice. I needed her to kind of be a little bit more, sassy. Um, but then going into This Little Mermaid, I think this movie also was able to make their additions feel warranted, feel necessary, really flesh out the story, give us more backstory into things that we didn't get in the animated version. And
Yeah.
so overall, just to kind of just put it out there first thing, I really enjoyed this live action remake. I do have some gripes as a fan of the animated film, of things that they maybe omitted and things that they, you know, didn't incorporate or things that they felt like were as important as the animated version, but overall, I
Okay.
think they did an amazing job with this live action remake.
Well, I mean, I will agree to an extent. I did enjoy the movie. Um, I am not particularly as familiar with the animated one. I remember seeing it a very, very long time ago as a very
So you
young
didn't watch it again
child. I've
before
not
you see it?
watched it. No, I didn't watch it again. I know the story of the Little Mermaid. Didn't I know what to expect? But in terms of perhaps tiny things, smaller things they omitted, I maybe wouldn't have recognised that, or didn't
Yes. So
recognise
I
that.
did
But
watch that
obviously, you'll
again.
be you'll be
Yes.
speaking about that. But ultimately, I did I did find myself enjoying a lot of the movie. Um, I also have a few little kind of I don't really like that kind of issues with
Yeah.
some of it, but that's small things really. That's more of me having an issue with the whole idea of even doing the live action remakes in the first
Yeah.
place than anything else, because ultimately it's obviously it's a really good story. I enjoy the story of kind of wanting more than your own home and
Yes, and I think
that
this
kind of
movie
stuff. I
this
really do.
yeah, and I think it was really important to this movie because I think, a lot of these characters get generalized. This, interview is going around with Keira Knightley being very kind of ignorant about princess movies, um, where she, like, refused to let her I don't know how old it is, she was on the Ellen show, so whenever, that was kind of a big,
It's quite
on,
a
and
while ago now.
yes. She, like, refuses to let her daughter watch princess movies because, Cinderella, no, my daughter can't watch that because she just waits around for a man to save her. And, like, so she, not The Little Mermaid because she just, gives up her voice for a man. And, like, that's, like, the general kind of thought that people kind of throw on Ariel. But she wants to go up to the land and the human world before she even sees Eric.
She does, yeah. She's wanted this clearly for many years.
She's been fascinated and wants to know about this place before Eric even has anything to do with the story.
That's
She
why she
sees
has the
him.
treasure
Yes.
trove of
Yeah, she's
artifacts.
exactly. So this movie, I think it was really important to them to focus on that, to make it so Ariel, this was to just hammer that point home. It was always the point that people always miss, but to make that more obvious, so they did like some lyric changes to show that like, because I think before Under the Sea song happens, in the animated version, she's talking about Eric. She's doing the, he loves me not with some flowers and making this
Yeah.
plan to go up and get his detention and all these things. And then that's when Sebastian's like, no, under the sea, under the sea. But in this one, she's talking about the fireworks and how beautiful it looked up there. And then it's under the sea, under the sea. So she's not
It
even
is.
talking about Eric.
It's very focused on the kind of dreaming bigger than
Bigger.
your own home kind of thing. It reminded me almost of one of my very, very favorite Disney animated movies, possibly. Well, that's a tough one actually. Moana,
Oh, yes.
which I obviously I love Moana. The attitude of Moana of being like, I want
Wanting
more than
more.
this tiny island. Get me
Yeah,
out of the way. I want to
which is
explore
yes,
things.
which is also kind of the energy they give Eric.
It
Um,
is.
he's from this very small island. He's inheriting this life that he, wasn't really meant to have. He's adopted. So I like that
An
they kind of give
adopted
him
prince.
yes, I like that they give him this whole backstory of, being found on a shipwreck and being raised by these royals and to be the prince and ultimately rule. And it's not him kind of sailing away, is not him kind of running from his duties. It's him wanting to do his duties in a very innovative new way. He
Yeah,
doesn't want
it's
his
to better the opinion
yeah.
of his own country across the world.
Yes, he doesn't want them to get left behind in the growth of the world. So he wants them to be trade, ambassadors and find new things and bring things back and be this very expansive port for people to come and
Yeah.
grow. And so that's why he wants to be out on the sea and trading and meeting new places and seeing new things. And so I like that they gave him all of that. That it wasn't a I'm running away from my responsibilities. No, he's okay with ruling, but he wants to do it his own way and
Yeah,
innovate.
and in
And
that
it's
way, they
very
have very similar dreams, the both of them, which gives
yes,
them that
that
kind of
connection.
mutual desire.
Yes, and, like, in all the promotional, of course, all we've been seeing is, part of your world and Ariel underwater. So,
Yeah.
I in a kind of funny way, forgot that there's gonna be a whole big chunk of this movie where she's not even talking, because none of the promotion really focused on that. So that was a great thing as well. When we do get on land with her and she can't talk, Halle is emoting so well with her face and her actions that you feel the chemistry between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like, the moments between the 2 of 'em when she can't speak on land are some of the best parts in the movie. They're having so much fun together, and you feel that, you see that, um,
I
and
mean,
yeah,
the
just what
it
everything.
did help they also cast. I mean, we've just talked about very attractive people. They've cast 2
Yes.
very attractive
Yes,
people
they look
opposite
really
each
good
other here.
together, and yeah, just their vibe and energy and him being excited to show her things and him being able to kind of understand and communicate with her even though she can't speak. Those scenes were really cute when he's showing her maps and she wants to see more and more, and they're
Yeah.
up all night looking at things, and he's showing her all of these things, and she's able to show him things too. He finds this big shell and he's talking about it and she shows him how to use it, and, um,
I mean,
so they're
obviously the rowing boat across the lagoon is,
Yes.
particularly
A
pretty to
romantic.
look at, I suppose, isn't
Yes.
it, as well? I think
Yes.
it's actually perhaps the prettiest scene in the entire movie. I was quite I feel like the entire movie this is one of my kind of weird visual issues I think I had with the movie, is I think up to the point where Ariel actually I don't know if it's where Ariel goes to Ursula, or might be just before then, the underwater was very dark.
It was very dark.
But then it wasn't dark later on in the movie. I
What
assume
when
that's for a reason.
I mean,
Like,
I guess
it
just to
felt Under the Sea was very colourful. Might have been before Under the Sea. Everything before Under the Sea
seemed
as a
kinda dark.
musical number seemed very grey and horrible to look at for me. And I want vibrancy. I want
Yeah,
colourful.
I
I was
mean,
sat there thinking, why doesn't this look like Aquaman looked? Because Aquaman was a very
it was very
colourful movie and
yes, I
how
mean,
a
I
brilliant way of doing underwater
I don't
action.
remember that, like, I think the darker scenes were obviously the Ursula scenes because she's in this darker part of the water, it's
Oh yeah,
supposed to
but
be
that made
evil and
sense to me. But it
but
was like
I
they were
don't
swimming around with the others and with the flounder and going hiding from Triton and all this kind of stuff that I was just like, It looks a bit dark to me, this."
okay. I don't think I felt that. I mean, I saw it in IMAX, so I don't know if that made any kinda difference.
Possibly it's a screen
Um,
thing, I don't
yeah,
know.
so I don't really I like, the colors were way more vibrant than I thought they were gonna be because obviously that was kind of a big complaint with the trailers that there wasn't super vibrant colors and all of
I d
that. But
The
I didn't
land scenes were very colourful, I felt, and
yes, and I like that
everything
it was
after Under the
more
Sea, yeah,
and I like that they
underwater-wise.
did kind of make it inherently, a Caribbean island kind of
Yeah,
location.
the steel
Steel
pans all
pan.
over the place.
Yes, as I'm someone who comes from a Caribbean family, Trinidadian family, it was nice to kind of have that. However, I was talking to our good friend of the show, Tina, about her
Yes.
thoughts, and she had me cracking up because when they go dancing, you have this guy who's kind of like, calling out things to the people dancing. And this guy is like, back it up. Like, and she's like, what does he know about back it up? Nobody would be saying that then. So her just replicating that man's
Uh,
accent and telling Ariel and Eric to back it up was just like had me in stitches.
oh,
Uh,
dear. It's
but
a very
yes,
good point, actually, Tina. I'll say that. I didn't actually notice that myself, but it's a very good point. Why
um,
somebody would be saying "back it up" to Ariel and
back it
Prince
up,
Eric, I do not
back it
know.
up.
Not really,
um,
not really appropriate language for such a period of history.
yes. But also in this scene, we get our little cameo from Jodie Benson. So I was so happy to see her, and
Oh
I'm like,
yes, yeah.
I'm surprised the other like princess movies didn't really do that, like have a cameo from somebody. Um,
Would have been quite good actually. To
coming
be
in.
fair.
Yeah. So,
There's more
um,
to go yet, though. There's more live action princess movies they can remake yet.
oh, they're already
So,
doing it. Princess and the Frog is in talks, so that's kind of
you
probably the
know,
next one.
that's only a decade old movie, so it's
Yeah.
not like
And
Not like some
Moana,
of the
7
others, like
years, so, like
oh, exactly. I know, right? We
yeah,
we really need a redo.
yeah,
Keep going. Yeah, you're
um
milking everything for all it's worth, Disney. I hate it.
yes. So, yeah, and generally, I think I'm not a fan of the concept of the live action remake, but this one I was excited about just because of the reaction of Halle Bailey and how she was going to do and just all the hate and she was getting and her kind of really seeing the positive in, more than the negative and her resilience in just even promoting this movie, being in this
Yeah.
movie. Everything I had seen was exciting. So this was a live action remake that while generally I don't think these are needed, just everything I
This
had
is
seen
certainly a
from it,
better one.
every one thing I had seen from Halle Bailey was really selling me on wanting to see it. And she
This is certainly a better one of the live
yes.
action remakes. Absolutely.
Yes, like, I think the best are probably Cinderella, The Jungle Book, which I kind of put on my
The Jungle
list of,
Book was
like,
decent.
it was well made and really kind of added to the story, and it looked great, and, those animals were able to emote, slightly better than
Felt
what we
like
got
it,
from The
yeah.
Lion King, because I don't remember that being a gripe of mine. But just in general, The Jungle Book is not one of my favorite Disney movies. It's a movie that I'm kind of not a huge fan of just in general. So that's why it's always kind of on my list of I don't need to really watch The Jungle Book, but in terms of how it was made, how it looks, how it interpreted and expanded on the story, I think well done. So Cinderella, Jungle Book, and this one are probably the best three, and everything else is just like so did not need to be made, and so was not really well done, in my opinion. But yes, I there was a lot to love in this movie. Like I said, the chemistry with her and Eric was great, especially on land, giving Eric that story. Eric got a song. I didn't hate his
He
song.
did.
I think his song was better than the Beast song, which
The
I did not like.
Beast's song,
I did not like the Beast song. Um, so I do prefer.
yeah.
However, there was a bit of confusion for me, which I think I've seen a couple people be confused by this. He's, singing this song while he's running around the island, you know, and he's just had a conversation. He's just, been through a shipwreck. His mother does not want him sailing anymore. She doesn't want him to get hurt. He's singing this song about, trying to find Ariel. And I love how they incorporate her, like, her singing in this song.
Yeah.
Um, and then at the end of the song, he's on a ship in a storm, like singing the song. So I'm like, is he imagining being on the ship? Is that what we're supposed to take from this? Or did he just get on a ship again? Like, it's not really clear.
No, I think that is unclear. Yeah, that's a fair point.
I took it as a symbolic him imagining being out on sea, but they did not execute that very well. Because by the end of the song, he's on a ship singing in a storm after his mom just told him, "Stay your ass on the land. You've just
Yeah.
been through a shipwreck." And then, like, we just move on to back under the sea following what Ariel's doing. So it doesn't really explain it.
I would, yeah, I would agree with that. I
It
would
was
say
it was a
fair
little
point to that.
confusing. It was a little confusing, but I did not hate Eric's song. I did like his song.
No,
His
I
his
quite like that
performance was
song.
very feeling like, theatrical, like stage, musical kind of vibe
Yeah,
to his voice and how he performed the song.
yeah. I think that's yeah. I would agree with that as well. And but it worked. I think
Yeah.
it did work for this movie. I thought he was really good as
Mhm.
Eric. Actually, as far as the a few other cast and members and characters go, I think Javier Bardem was a pretty good Triton for all
I
little he had to do.
Yes, like, I was disappointed that he didn't have as much to do as I had, remembered him doing in the animated. I also found him to be a little more gentle, and since I had kind of that immediate reference since I just watched the animated film before going to see it, um, Triton is in the animated is a lot more commanding, so when he's wrecking her grotto, when he's kind of
Yeah,
scolding her, you feel that more, and, you see Ariel's lip quiver and her kind of swim off and cry and all of that. You feel those moments more, that hurt more between the 2 of them, and also, but you understand where Triton's coming from and from this protective kind of instinct and him feeling really bad. I don't feel like Javier emoted that harshness as strongly as the animated version. He was a little more gentle. Even when he's kind of destroying the grotto, he's very kind of not as intense about it so that we don't really so then we end up not getting as strong of a reaction from Ariel. So I
Well,
think I
okay,
just
that's
wanted
fair. I
more.
mean,
I
you
think I
you
wanted more
have
from
that
that relationship.
you have that immediate reference point. I didn't have that immediate reference point, yet I still got those emotions from it. I thought Javier Bardem played it pretty well. I thought he was a, really appropriate, you know, kind of reserved father who just
Yeah.
wants the best, but wants the best in his way and only his way and has to overcome a certain
Yes.
stubbornness.
Yes. So I liked him as Triton. I just wanted a little bit more from him, more intensity from him in those certain scenes. I also feel like uh, the finale with him was a little bit awkward. Not finale really, but um
What, the final coming out of the water and saying bye bye to everybody?
no, that was fine, except of course we as a society ruined what that moment could have been, which I'll get into in a minute. Um
Why? What's happened
I'll get
now?
into that in a minute. But
Okay.
I felt like the scene where, he sacrifices his life,
Yes.
Ursula like blows him up, whatever. And then when he comes back to life, like, why are you not swimming immediately into his arms and reconciling with him? He risked his life for
Because
you.
I think you get the look
I
of the.
felt like it just felt a little awkward. Like he comes back to life in front of her and she's just staring at him and kind of swims up to him and says, "Here's your trident. Thanks." Like that's kind of what
No, I
I
think this
didn't
is. I
I
enjoyed that a lot. I thought it was played down. It wasn't just out there. I felt the emotion in the eyes of both
Okay.
characters
Okay.
in that.
I wanted more from that moment. It felt just a little awkward to me that like she wasn't immediately like excited to see that he was alive and okay. She just kind of was looking at him and then, she hands him the trident and I like them where she kind of tells him, "Wow, you risked your life for me." But it wasn't like, the immediate him coming back to life. It felt like just a little awkward that she wasn't more emotional in that moment to like see him come back. Um and yes, by the end, if you watch the animated, like, it always brings a tear to my eye when she hugs him and she says, "I love you, daddy." And, because as a society, we have co-opted that term
I
to
see.
be this flirtatious sexual innuendo of a term, she was calling him father throughout the whole thing. And so even at the end, when you're waiting for her whisper, "I love you, daddy," and it's, "I love you, father," it just doesn't hit the same,
Well, this is
it
this
still
is a
hits
cultural
it
issue then.
still hits an emotional beat, but, like, the "I love you, daddy" is, like, teenage girl in this time, you know, it's a key moment, and so when she says, "I love you, father," it just kind of puts this propriety on it that doesn't have that, you know, father-daughter kind of moment, you know? And I
I
get
would say fair enough again to that. I
and then,
would say
like,
fair
even,
enough again to that.
and even that term has been applied to Triton in these kind of very much like, hot Disney
Yes,
dads
it
type
has
kind of
because
discussions.
he is
So
kind of a
so
well-built
yes,
animated figure, isn't he?
hence us as a society have kind of co-opted that
Yeah,
term to where she
yeah.
couldn't call him daddy throughout the whole movie. She had to call him father, throughout the whole thing. So not a big gripe, but just like, seeing the original and seeing how that always, like, makes me cry, like, it didn't hit the same because 'cause I'm waiting to hear that and I hear something different, you know? So just a comparative thing for someone who really loves the animated version. Um,
Well, I
also
admittedly still felt the appropriate emotions there,
yes.
and wouldn't necessarily, have that particular love for Little Mermaid. I enjoy that animated version. Like I said, I've not seen it for many, many, many years, but
Well, you
it's
should have done
certainly.
you should have done your homework and watched it so you could,
It's not
you know.
necessary. Not necessary.
I
It's not
think you
necessary.
well
The point I'm making is about this movie, and it worked in the context of this movie for me, so I
okay.
can't complain.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
all I'm saying.
I think, they made an effort to have some iconic shots from the
They
animated version in
did,
this movie.
yes.
So, but for me, there was another scene that was just as iconic as the hair flip, just as iconic as the rock splash that was not executed well at all.
And
Um,
this was.
on land, as a as someone who, loves a good makeover moment. Ariel on land has had some great fashion moments. You know, her dress that she wears when she has dinner with Eric when she first gets on land, her blue dress when they go out exploring for the day. And then when Triton turns her human and she comes out of the water in this sparkling dress, like that is an iconic, memorable scene, just as iconic as the hair flip and the rock splash. And the fact that our reveal is her in that same old raggedy dress that he threw into the sea
It
that we've seen her
is.
in on the whole land thing. It's not on the beach. He just turns around and she's there. Like, that final reveal should have been bigger, should have been given more pomp and circumstance and excitement uh as those other iconic scenes. And so the fact that it was just kind of him turning around and she's there in that same old beat up blue dress, like that was kind of a big letdown for me.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'll
Like,
be
and I
honest.
think everyone was speculating what's her final reveal dress gonna look like. She comes with her arms spread out, walking from the sea, and it's beautiful moment. He picks her up and spins her around, and it's this whole great thing. And then no, he just turns around and she's there. Like, hi, in that same blue dress.
I
And the
mean,
one dress, and she only wears one dress on land, the same blue dress we've seen her the whole time. So it was just kind of like, I wanted more. And then even like her final dress was very just like her blue dress, but like in white and pink. So it was kind of like, which I guess, they're being more kind of historical to an era of fashion and that time and in what people were wearing. And it's obvious like an island place. So she's not gonna be wearing some big floofy dress and all of that. But um yeah, just the fashion moments on land for Ariel were just not as magical or as exciting as I would have wanted them to be. So that was kind of another
well,
disappointment, which has nothing to do with story stuff. It just has stuff to do with aesthetically
no,
that I was just like,
I don't.
"Ugh," that I
Like I
wanted to
said,
see, that I was hoping to see, and I just didn't. I was kind of bummed.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. But the fact is, again, I will just say, though the animated movies of which have resulted in these live action remakes are always the superior movies. As far as
Yes, and I
movies are
get
concerned,
that.
they
And
just that is just a consistency throughout.
but I mean
And I
aesthetically,
think that will always be the case.
and I totally get that. But I think aesthetically, if you're going to highlight these iconic moments and pull these iconic moments, especially and specifically from the animated, then those things need to be consistent. Everything else
Yeah,
around that can be your own interpretation and do something different and more expanded upon. But if you're going to do the hair flip, that's a big iconic moment in the animated. If you're going to do the rock splash in the song and all of that, that's a big iconic. Her walking out of the ocean in that dress is a huge iconic moment, and it has nothing to do story-wise that would change their interpretation of the story, but they chose not to do that, so that was just kind of a disappointing thing.
no, I'm not saying that as a defense of what this movie didn't do. I'm just saying that as a fact
You
of
have
I
to just
would go into
generally
these movies
expect
and
lesser.
just expect
Expect.
less because
Yes,
I
that is
just
fair.
do.
Yeah,
So that's all I was saying about that. I
that's a
certainly
fair point.
expect less in terms of how the CG animal characters looked. I mean,
I will say
okay, I'll give them this. They're all acted, voice acted pretty well. I mean, Aquafina's doing herself no favors in just annoying more people that don't like her,
yes, I mean,
even though
all I've
I
heard
really do like her.
all I've heard is how much people hate the Scuttlebutt song.
It's kind of really annoying, but I happen to actually like Aquafina,
They were
so
like,
I was kind of
"Lin-Manuel,
into it.
you did not you
It's
like" people hated it.
it really is quite annoying. I can obviously see why it would be annoying. She's making the black noise an awful lot.
Yeah,
I understand. I just happen to like her kind of weird, frantic
energy.
energy. I do.
Yeah.
I don't really know why, but I do like that. But
Yes, no, I thought she worked as a
how
character, but
but how in particular Sebastian and Flounder actually looked in this movie, I thought was was awful.
Yeah, and I think they
Acted
made it
really well,
more.
particularly David Diggs as Sebastian, I think nails it.
Yes, I mean, I think, they kind of sidelined Flounder a little bit more than he was in the
They did.
animated to kind of do a more team up of Scuttle and Sebastian.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was because of how he looked that they just kind of said,
Yeah,
um
Flounder looks awful.
yeah, so he didn't really get a lot to do. Um, and Sebastian, I will say, Sebastian got a lot of laughs from my theater. People
Okay.
loved
I mean,
Sebastian.
he was
And
quite
I will
funny.
also make a note that I think if your last name is Diggs, you go to the same, Caribbean accent school because
Yes.
parts of Daveed Diggs' accent was giving me Tay Diggs from
Ah.
Stella Got Her Groove
Ah.
Back. I was just like, "What are the odds of these 2 Diggs mans doing these Caribbean accents and both of them sounding the same kinda stereotypical
Must be
Jamaican man
must be a
type?"
Diggs thing.
Yeah, so, yeah, Diggs, acting school for Caribbean accents
It is,
was
I
one
mean,
of
it's very pronounced as well, isn't
yes,
it? It is
certain cadences
very,
of
very
words, I'm like,
pronounced.
"That sounds like Winston from How Stella Got Her Groove Back." Like, that's what I was
Just slightly more than an actual natural Jamaican accent.
yes, it was very much put on. So,
Yeah.
it's just
But
like
I think this,
but it was how
Under
he
the
del
Sea was really well
it was
performed by
yes,
him.
he had fun with it. People how he delivered some of his lines, like when he's walking away, just kind of mumbling
Muttering
to
to
himself.
himself, yeah.
Yes, those got a lot of laughs. Like every time he said something or had a funny quip, my theater was laughing. So they really loved Sebastian. And I think out of the three, he was able to emote the best because at least he had those kinds of eyes that were,
He did. I don't like the look of it. I think
yeah,
it's a CG mess in certain parts, and I don't love that. I
yeah,
do really like the story though, and I think it's a better, like I said, one of the better live action remakes. As far as Ursula goes, to close us out, I think
yeah.
Melissa McCarthy had a really tough job.
Oh yeah. I mean, Pat Carroll
To
was iconic.
a
Um,
really, really tough job, and she does about the best she
Possibly
possibly
could.
could do.
Yes, I think in the certain point she's going a little over the top and being a bit theatrical with, sometimes, she kind of seems like she's doing a bit southern thing and then she's doing like a, you know, British over
Aye,
exaggerated
it
British thing and some kind of
it's
line
it's funny
delivery.
you say that because I felt she wasn't doing that enough.
Yeah, she didn't really commit to it. You heard it in kind of moments, but she didn't fully commit to either one kind of, either cadence. So
You
had she
think
kind
of
of
the
gone
animated Ursula, and it's very theatrical, it's
yes, and
very
very
grandiose
consistent.
all the time.
Yes, I think she did a good job. I enjoyed her. I especially love that I was really waiting for this. They're gonna give her some ridiculous redemption story, especially kind of they really were more
Yeah, no,
obvious
we
about
don't want that.
the familial relation between her and Triton,
Yeah.
which they don't even mention in the animated film. But I think later texts and things like that reveal that they are brother and sister. So the fact that they were able to bring that up and mention it, I thought they were gonna like do some arc about how she was wrongfully banished and da 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 and give
Yeah.
but no, I love that they gave her
No, they
the
just make her a horrible
yes!
person.
And then even at the end, like, I love the monster is how big and scary they give her, like, veins on her face
It
and
did
dark
look
glowing
quite good.
eyes. It looked
I'll
really
give that
scary.
credit. I'll
That
give that
finale
credit.
was really scary, so I like that they
Yeah.
kept the character purely just, like, deplorable and evil. And they added this little thing in there, I don't know if that was necessary, this extra thing on the spell that she doesn't remember that she has to kiss Eric in the 3 days, like, I don't know if that was necessary, like, that didn't really go
No.
anywhere. Um, but yeah, overall, I think she did a good job. She looked great. She performed "Poor Unfortunate Souls" really well. She sounded good, but again, like
Although there
she,
was a little bit of Poor Unfortunate Souls that wasn't in there, wasn't there?
yes, the body language, which I was kind of disappointed,
Why
because
not why not let
I
Melissa McCarthy flaunt
th-
herself?
they were really kind of stepping away from um I think body agency type kind of ideals. Like I think a lot of the you'll have your looks, you'll have your pretty face, kind of highlighting that women should say,
Okay.
those kind
I
of
but
they were trying
also,
to veer away from that thought process of, that's how you get a guy's attention is,
I
flaunt
understand that, but
yourself physically. And so I
would
think
it
that
not
was
also be some body positivity?
yes, but I think that's just I'm just explaining why I think they probably changed
No,
those words or
I
took
get
it out,
that.
which was, like, always a disappointment to me because it was kind of this inside joke with me and my coworkers because, you know, at my old work, it was a very kind of toxic environment, and my boss kinda once told me something about how, um, I invoke a negative attitude with my body language. And so then that became a thing where, like, when I would just mock her saying that to me by
I
doing
see.
body language, like, when people would bring that up, "You better control your body language," like my friend would sarcastically say
I
to
see.
me, and then I would kind of do the Ariel or the Ursula motion. So, yeah, it's such a fun part of the song and, like, a fun kind of move for Ursula. But yeah, I so I missed it a little bit, but I think they found a way to still make the song work without it. And even with "Kiss the
Yeah.
Girl," they did change some lyrics in that as well, where kind of like a line is kind of him just like, "Don't say anything, just kiss her." And so this one is like, "Ask her," um, to kind of, so yes, what people would
Understandable.
call a woke, these woke
Understandable,
changes,
but not
that's what
actually
people
have any idea of what that word actually means.
Yes. So I mean, I didn't have a problem with the changes. I do like the one I would
No,
probably
not
miss. The
really.
one I probably missed the most is the body language one. But uh, either way, I don't think it like dampered anything or changed anything too drastically to be like, oh, that sucks.
I
So
think it's a lovely song to listen to, that the "Kiss the Girl" song, though.
yeah, I miss that there was more because like you have more voices in the original. So I was
No,
missing that.
I mean this version, it's kind of
It's
muted,
more toned down. Yeah, it's more
it's
just
toned
Daveed
down.
Diggs and yeah, it's more
You
like
get the
3
steel
voices.
pans come back a little bit and the
Yes.
natural sounds, and I like that.
Yeah,
Very
it's more stripped down. It's like,
sweet.
Kiss the Girl Unplugged, I guess. But I do think I
Um,
preferred, like, the more voices and stuff that were in the original one, but I don't think this one was bad. I liked all the songs, of course, Scuttlebutt, I liked the idea of it, but
it's a let Lin-Manuel Miranda write another rap Disney song.
yes, and, I did like the internal song that Ariel had,
Yeah,
when she's on, land. I thought that was a great addition to kind of at least get a voice from her and a perspective from her while she can't speak. Um, and just one more scene that kind of, wasn't, not something that I missed from the original. I absolutely love the scene when she first sees Eric. That's like a whole big discovery scene for her because she sees the fireworks, she comes out of the water, she sees the ship, so it's seeing the fireworks for the first time, and then she's looking on the ship and she sees the people dancing, and that's another moment of discovery for her. And then she shares this sweet moment with Max where he licks her on the
yeah.
face and immediately like loves her. So it's like all of these things of discovery for her. And they're playing this jig song, which I love the jig song, and then she sees Eric. So it's like all of these lead up of things that she excite her, leading to this whole thing. And like teenage girl seeing your crush for the first time, like I think that is a huge relatable moment. And so the fact that we didn't really get it done in that way, it was more her just kind of looking at him, and they didn't really take a camera beat to like focus on how she was looking at him or like, you know, because I think there was, of course, all this whole big, motivation of the movie to like not make it about fully about Eric and make it about
Yeah.
Ariel and her dreams. But I think it's just a relatable concept to have a crush on somebody as a teenage person, you know?
I would certainly think so. I mean, we
So
don't
I don't think
necessarily
it
get
wasn't.
her going heart eyes, hands to the chin,
Yes,
pretty kind of
which I
thing.
loved that, like, I love that moment, but I think it was just this whole agenda to, veer away from that, which I totally
Possibly.
understand, but I just think I think having a crush is a relatable thing for any teenager, so I wanted to really feel that moment of her seeing him, because I think they did enough around that to to hammer the point home that it's more about the experience on land in general and not just Eric. So I think still having that scene in there, would have done in the way it was done in the animated wouldn't have hurt that concept. So I was a
Yeah.
little bummed that we didn't get more of a ooh pretty kind of um you know uh first look
Well, between
from
both of them, as they're
yeah.
both very pretty people, like we say.
Yes, yes.
Um, no, I did. I enjoyed the movie though. Um, I still don't think they need to bother making them, but you might as well do it well if you are going to make them. So well done
Yeah,
for
and I
doing it
mean,
well.
yes, and also just like, having to film this movie and make it look underwater and,
Yeah,
how I think for having to have this weird filming style in terms of making these people look underwater and the special effects, I think a lot of people were worried about that. I think, there were moments that didn't look great, but overall for how they had to film this movie on harnesses and all these things and pretending to be underwater, I think it looked great. Yes.
Scuttle also talks underwater for a certain time,
Yes,
which is nonsense.
they made him a diving bird that can dive several feet. Um,
Still can't open the mouth underwater.
okay, well, it's based off of an
Factually, naturally inaccurate.
okay, along with the mermaid that she's
With the
talking to.
yes, I
Yes,
believe
but
in
they actually
mermaids. I do not
changed
believe birds can
can do
breathe
that.
underwater.
Um, but I think that I saw some fun thing about Scuttle that the fact they changed the breed of bird, it's actually a bird that you puts weird things in their nests. So they
Okay,
actually would have weird like human objects in their nests, like forks and
not a fork. It's not called a
a
fork.
dingle hopper.
Thank you.
Um so yeah, it's actually an actual bird who has weird things like, artifacts and human things in their nests typically. So they thought that would be a cool bird to, be the one to show her these things and act like they know what it is.
It's a fair point.
Um,
That's a
yes.
fair point.
Yes. So I did overall I enjoyed the film. Of course I shared my grievances and they were all kind of more just like aesthetically comparable to the animated film.
Yeah,
Um but the things that they expanded on I think were great. I think Halle Bailey, she really portrayed the curiosity and the strength of Ariel and her scenes on land were just so cute. Her chemistry with Eric. Um Even I think they did that switch up of her being the one to drive the boat into Ursula, which it was Eric who
yeah, they
did it
did.
in the
Yeah,
which I didn't hate. Because it's her story and, let her be the hero. That's a cool thing.
why not?
Um, so yeah, I loved the additions to expand on characters and to expand on the world and the story. Of course, like any live action, there are elements that I wish were executed a little bit better, but overall, like Halle Bailey kind of leading this charge, leading this movie, really made it special for me. So
And at least the lead actor can sing,
yes, oh
which
gosh,
we're so
without
thankful
auto
for.
tune.
Yay, well done, Halle Bailey. You can
Yes,
actually
yes,
sing. Congratulations.
yes.
No, it's yeah. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there we go. That is our full review of the Little Mermaid live action remake. And Janine, we're going